The journey to wealth is a long walk, and some people may walk quicker than others. But what good is sprinting to the finish line if you pass out when you cross it? This is Walk to Wealth with your host, John Mendez. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and make sure to give us a follow, because I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing episodes I got cooking up this year. Without further ado, let's get right into this one. Darius, for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity, the pleasure to get to know you, to get to meet you yet, man, tell us your elevator pitch. Who are you and what do you do?
For sure. So my name is Darius Lester. I'm the owner of Mammoth Money Mindset and also Mammoth Money Academy. And what I'm focusing on right now is Mammoth Money Academy. And basically, it's a course and a community for parents and teenagers to learn about financial literacy. So basically, we focus on how to make money and then how to protect it for generations.
Amen. And so before we dive into all that good stuff you're working on now, I like to start off my interviews a little different nowadays. I want to ask you, how do you define wealth?
You said wealth?
Yeah, wealth.
Well, I guess we'll just say right now, because what I've noticed is just as the years go on, my definition of it changes. So where I'm at right now in my life, wealth is enough money for me and my spouse to not have to work, but to be able to still, enjoy our lifestyle. And even more so than that, with that, having enough assets to pass on to my children that enables them to live a similar life that me and my wife are living, and give that to their kids. Cool. Right now, wealth to me is something that leads to generational effects.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So it seems like experience, family, and legacy kind of encompasses of like what your definition of wealth means. And so I'm curious, take us back in a time machine. What do you think kind of led up to that? What was money like growing up in your household? Was it something that was talked about often or early, or just take us kind of back into the time machine a little bit? What was life like growing up, and what was the topic of money like?
No, for sure. There wasn't a topic of money. It was never really discussed at all in my upbringing. Me and my mom started off pretty humbly, right? Don't know what happened to my dad. I didn't know until now, but mom saying we used to live in this little shack because, she had to move out of her mom's house, very shortly after she had me. And, as we moved on, we moved into, slightly bigger house, kind of suburban living. It wasn't anything too bad, but we never talked about money. My family definitely had lots of debt that they didn't really share with me. I just found about it later after I became an adult. The one lesson I got taught was to save money. My mom did set me up with a savings account when I was in high school. And, if I just chose to put some of my allowance in there, that was just on me. That was about the extent of my financial literacy as a child and how I grew up.
All right, cool. So you had I wouldn't even say the basic, just slightly under the basic. You had a savings account, which is, I think, more than most. And again, depending on where you grew up. But so coming out of high school, did you see yourself moving into like the financial industry? Because now you're teaching people about money and how to make more money and
sure.
and protect that money. Was that something that you ever saw yourself doing? Like, what was your kind of thought process coming out of high school and into early adulthood?
No, I appreciate that. So no, not at all. I've never been a financial person as far as high school goes, and even early in my adult life. Coming out of high school, I had full plans to be a music teacher. So I was real big into music. I sung, played piano, all that good stuff. And I was like, this is cool. Throughout high school, I really liked my music teacher. So I was like, he was a great influence on me. And I was like, I'd like to be that for others. So maybe that's where the teaching part came from. But no, I never thought about money at all. Funny enough, after I graduated, I kind of chilled out for a year, and then I ended up changing my mind and not going to college, and I ended up joining the military. So I joined the Air Force, and just through happenstance, I ended up being a financial manager for the Air Force. So I guess that's the first introduction to working with money. And then through that, I end up meeting, different people. The good thing about joining the Air Force is like you jump in and you're not there with, a whole bunch of other 19 and 20-year-olds, like maybe like it would have been in college, or something. You're there with people close to your age bracket. Like I'm there with 30, 40, 30 and 40-year-olds, and they done been through my life, double. And they imparted a lot of wisdom on me on what to do and what not to do. I didn't listen to majority of it, but the small amount that I did listen to, I think has started to influence me. And eventually, after I saw the effects of it, I started to get into finance.
Yeah, that's dope. I had a similar experience, different journey, of course. But for me, I got into real estate at that age. So when the age you were in the Air Force, I got my real estate license. And I remember going to these networking events and all these real estate investor meetups. And I was always the youngest person, if not one of the youngest people in the room. And everyone there, well, I live in Connecticut, which is a little bit more of like an old money state. So like instead of being 30s and 40s, it was like 50s and 60s. Right. It's like everyone there, some of the people, they were like 3 times my senior, some of them. Sometimes, I don't think I ever met someone 4 times my senior. Man, I don't know, man. Long story short, the people were a lot more experienced and more seasoned than I was in life. And to your point, like I think one thing I found personally is I think a lot of people that have already made it, right, from what I found personally, all they want to do is give back. And especially when they see someone that's young and willing to listen, like a lot of these people willing to, like similar to your situation, impart game on me, like let me know like, hey, what to do and what not to do to help me. And again, I bounced around and ended up figuring my way into what I do now. But like a lot of that stuff definitely helped shape, I guess, my mindset around money and stuff like that. And even though I didn't continue pursuing real estate and real estate investing, when the time comes and I want to get back into it, and one, I got my real estate license, so I'll be able to get back into it easy. And even if I move somewhere else outside of Connecticut, I know realtors all over the country. And so it's like, it's only a phone call away. And getting tapped into the investor world, like I already know the end, like, and so it's like, for me, it definitely taught me a lot of really valuable lessons. And more importantly, got me a lot of really valuable connections. Being able to get into these rooms where, again, everyone was 2, 3, 4 times my senior, right? Or almost 4 times my senior. All right, so back to you. So you got into the Air Force, right? And you're getting a lot of this game from these people. You're getting into this financial role. Resume us into the story. Where did it go from there?
So, like I said, I came in, I wasn't really thinking about finances at all. The only thing I learned from my mom was that it was important to save money. So I was like, got it. So I did. As soon as I joined the military, I started taking, money out of my checking account and put it into my savings account. I wasn't really saving for any particular goal. I was just doing it because I got told to do it. And what I noticed was many of my peers, other people that recently joined, were not doing that at all, right? There'd be some weekends, I'm young, going out, hanging out, doing young people things. And, some of my friends would be like, oh man, no, I can't go, just out to eat. Like, I can't go this week. I got to wait till the next paycheck. They're like, I don't got any money. To me, I don't have any money means that I am like below $100 or below $200 in my checking account, right? Yeah. Just my mental says that, hey, if your account gets to this area, you don't have any money. You're not allowed to spend anymore. Yeah. But what I learned was other people don't have that same, blocking. And they're like, no, I have 17 cents to my name right now. And I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. That's crazy. Like my body won't even let me get to that area. I'd blow up. So, it was just kind of like, okay, this is what some people do with their stuff. Here's what other people do. Let me make sure I stay on this side. So I was real big into saving. Lucky for me, at my first base, one of the guys that worked there, he's a staff sergeant. It just means he's been in maybe, 5, 6 years or so. He was like, all right, all you young people, come in this room. He taught all of us about credit. Up until that point, I knew that credit card debt was bad So my plan was just to never get any credit devices ever for the rest of my life. I was like, I'm a good saver. I'll just save for whatever I want and then buy it, and I'm cool. But after listening to his speech about credit, I was like, oh, okay, I'm probably going to need that regardless, if I'm a good saver or not, just because of, houses and mortgages and cars,
yeah.
Or, just for lots of reasons. So I was like, okay, well, let me go ahead. After me listening to him, I was like, okay, I went ahead and got my first credit card and, started that journey. There was another guy I saved up maybe like 30, probably like my first few years in Air Force. I ended up saving like 30, 40 grand, something like that. And I'm like, I'm killing it. Like, nobody got money like this. Like, and, I'd already had a Mustang, which I bought off of somebody from Craigslist. I bought it in cash. They wanted like 8,500 for it. So that was cool. I drove that for a bit, and I was like, you know what? I always wanted a Jaguar. And I was like, I got, $30,000-$40,000 just sitting here. I'm gonna go get my Jaguar because I saved it. I deserve it. And thank God, Jerry was this guy that, worked in my office. He had already hit Master Sergeant, retired, came back as a civilian. So he's like 40s, 50s. And he was like, that's stupid. Don't do that. And I was like, but why? And he was just like, well, one, Jaguar's a crap car. And I was like, all right, relax. And then I guess he used to be a mechanic, and he talked about how many times they had to fix them. But then he also told me, he was like, don't do that. Go buy a house. Houses, get equity and become more money, and cars do the opposite. They get less money. So I didn't buy a house then, but I didn't buy the Jaguar either. And then honestly, I didn't buy my first house until like 3 or 4 years after that conversation. But after I did that, I understood, and I appreciate him for it.
Yeah, it's crazy how, there's a saying, right? When a student's ready, the master will appear, the teacher will appear, whatever. Mm-hmm. And like some people, they just come into your life at the right time, help you out of some dumb stuff, or at least potentially would have been dumb stuff, and to put you in the right track. So that's dope. So you didn't buy the Jaguar, even though you really wanted it. You also didn't buy the house. Then you went from there. Fast forward us to today. So we got a little bit of an understanding as to where you're at. You grew up with your mom, grew up not knowing too much. You knew like saving was important, got into the Air Force, learned about a little bit more about money, a little bit more. You got to see firsthand people who use their money completely horribly, right? And he said 17 cents named, right? And then learned about credit a little bit, so started building that, started to build more of a foundation. Fast forward us a bit in the story. At what point in time did you decide to get into this kind of entrepreneurial route? What kind of sparked that journey? Because you were in the Air Force, and take us a little bit, fast forward us a little bit to what kind of was like the inception of like, hey, maybe I should start my own thing.
Sure. So basically the way it all happened was pretty much I left that base where the guy told me about the house thing where I didn't buy one. I got to my next base. My friends were doing stock market things. I didn't know what the stock market was. I just saw them talking about it. So I went and downloaded Robinhood, and they were like, yeah, I'm doing this and this and this. And I lost a bunch of money. I quit. I figured out what I was doing wrong. So I came back and I started making money. I was like, all right, this is good. Got a house, moved, got another house. I was like, all right, cool. I'm cooking on all these things. I'm learning from my mistakes. And as I'm gaining all of this knowledge over the years, I'm like, ooh, I'm telling my friends, I'm telling my family, hey, do this, don't do this. You're going to lose. Like I lost maybe 28, 32 something $1,000 in the stock market. Like I said, because I was a good saver. So I had a lot of money. And I went to the stock market and I put all my money into the stock market. And I was investing in stuff that I shouldn't have invested in. I was holding it while it was going down. It's terrible. But yeah, I ended up losing like $32,000 in the stock market. Horrible. I actually went like lifetime positive. I just went lifetime positive like late last year, early this year.
Wow.
I turned the curve and made it all back. But so while I'm learning all this stuff, I'm telling friends, I'm telling family, I've been telling them for a few years. And a lot of people are like, man, thank you. I did this and this and I made this. Oh, thank you so much. I did this and this. And this is amazing knowledge. You should charge for this. And I was like, after hearing it so many times, it's like, okay, let me try to make some sort of business out of it. So a couple years ago, I started a coaching business. My first client actually came to me before I even announced anybody that I was starting a coaching business. So I took that as like a message from God, kind of, because it's like, I ain't tell nobody about this. I ain't make my post yet or nothing, but somebody inboxed me and they were like, hey, can you help me fix my money? And I was like, oh, sure. Right. Yeah. So I started doing that. I did that for a couple of years and got a lot of experience, learned who I'm good at helping with, who I'm not so great at helping with. I learned you have to put criteria on people, even though you want to help everybody, you have to put criteria, because sometimes people will come and you'll want to help them, but they're not in a space to be helped, whether it be mentally or whatever they got going on in their life. So regardless of how much you want to, you can't force help into somebody. So after learning all that stuff, and this most recent year, I decided to pivot because I wanted to be more niche down, besides just helping everybody with everything. So I really like helping young people. And I think it's easier to help somebody before they get into debt than to try to dig somebody out of, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 of debt. So I was like, cool, let me focus on the teens. And I became a new parent. So I'm like, ooh, let me help the parents because that's still helping the teens. So that's how I came up with this idea to make a course in a community that helps parents and teenagers learn how to master their money. And then more recently, I decided to add on this extra part of figuring out how to protect their money and, that whole aspect of it.
Yeah, that's so dope, man. You mentioned a lot of good things. I want to kind of dive at it piece by piece a little bit. Mm-hmm. The first piece is you mentioned that you kind of got your first client before you're making that introduction. Like, what better confirmation to like, hey, this might be the right path. I think a lot of people are kind of waiting for a sign, and like a lot of times it could be something like this. Sometimes it's a little more discreet and mysterious, and you kind of have to like figure it out, like what this does actually mean. But that's dope that you not only got the sign, but like also ran with it, right? A lot of people could have been like, hey, maybe still, and rode the fence a little bit. I think a lot of people tend to be very hesitant jumping into entrepreneurship. I'm curious, before we dive into the other stuff, that first client, was that a paying client or a free client? Just curious.
She paying client.
Paying client. All right, cool. So now I want to follow up with that. What was it like charging? I know, at least from me, my personal experience, and you don't have to tell us what you charge, but like just charging in general. A lot of times it's like we have this own expertise, stuff that we know for ourselves, that we're confident. We know our stuff. We know how valuable this stuff could be to somebody. But a lot of times just like relaying that to somebody else and then getting them to pull out their credit card and swipe. A lot of time that confidence just goes straight out the window, despite us knowing what we're talking about. So what was kind of like just getting that first client, saying that first price, and what was it like also when they agreed to it? What was it? Just take us to that experience.
I mean, like you said, it's real awkward asking people for money, especially with I don't know, like a coaching service, because it's not like I'm not like, oh, here you go, this is money for this physical thing. It's more of like I feel like they're paying me for like ideas. And so it was definitely a little awkward for me. I think it made it a little better that, like I said, she messaged me on Facebook. So, it was a friend, it's somebody I had met, years ago at a different base. So it wasn't a complete stranger. But basically she was, telling me what she was going through. And then I gave her, we had like a talk, which now I guess it's kind of like a sales call. But I was like, all right, what are you going through? What's your pain points, so on and so forth. And it's like, okay, well, based off of that, I would, suggest doing this and applying to these things and, whatever. And then she was like, okay, yeah, no, that feels really good. And what helped was she was telling me how good she felt, like while we were like, after we had kind of talked and semi made a game plan, or at least spoke about what we were going to do. She told me how good it made her feel. So that gave me a little confidence to go ahead and be like, yep, we're going to do that. You're going to feel even better after we actually, do the stuff. So, it's going to be this much. Are you, cool with paying that? And she's like, yeah, no, I'll do that. I think I charged maybe like 125, 150, something like that. I think that was like my first thing. And honestly, it was my first one. I had no idea anything about a payment structure or model or how much I should do or I don't know. I was just guessing. I was like, this feels like a okay number. And I was just, honestly, I had charged her that once, and I ended up meeting with her like 6-7 times, or something like that, as opposed to charging per session or anything. Because I was happy somebody paid me, and then I won. I really wanted her to win, for like a proof of concept.
Yeah, that's dope. So for anyone listening, I just want to break down some of the lessons there, right? One, if you're on the fence worrying about what to charge or what the price, just go out there and charge something, right? Well, I forget who says this. I think it's Alex Ramosi, if I'm not mistaken, but he pretty much says, state the highest prices you can say with a straight face. So whatever that number is, and see what and if they say no, well, it's like, hey, I could do it for less, right? And negotiate your way down. But don't let that, again, like you said, that pricing model, that business model, whatever pricing structure, be the thing that stops you from actually getting money in the bank account. Because especially when you're getting started, you just need to get something. And then the second thing you mentioned, you didn't mention it specifically, but just going above and beyond. You said you met another 6-7 times that you just wanted her to win, right? Sometimes getting proof of concept is more important than getting paycheck. Now, proof of concept can't pay your bills, so do what you want with that information, right? Make sure you're not putting yourself in bad situation just to get some proof of concept.
For sure.
But also, it's like sometimes you do need that, right? Especially if you want to actually start a business and you want to be confident charging people, you also got to know what you're charging is actually worth that. Right now, you can put an arbitrary number and pull it from thin air or whatever, or you can get some real results, right? Charge less than what you know it's worth, just so you can get some actual, like you mentioned, proof of concept, and then keep it pushing. So, all right, cool. Let's get back into it. Dope to hear you got that first client that kind of kickstarted everything. The next lesson later on in your story, you mentioned, now you're working on niching down, right? You figured out who you want to work with, who you don't want to work with. I think a lot of people, especially because most entrepreneurs come from, they already had some sort of career, right? They had some sort of job or stuff. Most people don't go directly into entrepreneurship in life. They work somewhere and then eventually find their way to it, whether it's going all in or like they quit or whatever. There's many ways, but a lot of people come in with this mindset of like the customer is always right. And that could be a very dangerous mindset because a lot of times they're not. But because you're in customer service, especially if you come from retail, right? You don't really have a say regardless of whether they're right or wrong. And when you're building your business, I think a lot of people, it could be very easy to not want to offend anyone or not want to push anyone away or whatever. And I call it the Miss America answer, right? A lot of realtors have this problem. Like you ask them who they help. I help everyone. Great. Right. And for marketing purposes, that is the worst thing you could probably do in your entire life. And you're going to attract way less people by trying to be so generic and so for everyone, right? Another quote, I love quotes, right? A friend to everyone is an enemy to thyself, right? So you can try to help everyone. Most cases, you're probably not qualified to help everyone. You have uniqueness to yourself that people will resonate with. And so if you find those people, then double down on those people. And you mentioned you wanted to help teens. You became a new parent. So now you're like, all right, I want to help the parents. And you're just finding more ways to add more value to the audience that you have. And for a lot of people that are listening, one lesson I want to take away, the reason why niching down is so great, there's many, but one of the main reasons is because if you just narrow down one specific audience and you just really understand them, you can also find more ways to help them, which would then make you more valuable to them and make them want to pay you more, right? And so those are a lot of dope lessons that you didn't explicitly come out and state, but I kind of just wanted to pull the nuggets from some of the things that you're sharing. And so now that we kind of got the backstory, right? So tell us, what are some of the things that you see, like the big problem that you see with young people nowadays? Like, what are some of the things that people come to you with that we can just start talking about? Because I know I turned 24 literally in a week from today. So I'm still at quote unquote young age. I'm not a teen anymore, but like that wasn't too far long ago. So I can still remember like what my journey into personal finance was and all the things that I wish I had known earlier. So let's start with like, what are some of the big problems that you see from in the market and from all the people that you're currently helping out?
Okay. Yeah, no. And I appreciate you. I think I just want to say, real good listener, right? Sum up stuff I say real well and, expound upon it. I'm like, oh, yeah, nope, all of that. I agree.
I've done quite a few of these, man. It comes after a long while.
For sure. No, that's good. So like I said, I do finances for the Air Force. So for most of my time that I've been on like the customer service side of the house. So it's just helping people day in and day out, make sure they get their paychecks, updating their marital status, just a whole bunch of stuff, travel related payments, things like that. So I've dealt with a lot of people and a lot of different emotions around money. Something that's, I guess, caught me off guard since I've been in, longer. I started to get, some of the newer people, like some people coming in 17, 18, 19 years old. And, as an example, one of them, his supervisor called and they were like, hey, so-and-so didn't get his paycheck. Whenever I hear that, I'm like, oh, crap, one of my people messed up or something like that. We got to do whatever we can to hurry up and get this person paid. And after doing the work to figure out what happened, it turns out that this person's primary bank account was Cash App. And this blew my mind because to me, that sounds like insanity. I was like, why the heck would your primary bank be Cash App? And apparently that's just a thing now, right? A lot of younger people got Cash App. I think it's Chime, maybe. A few other, it's just, it's like some app that has a card, and a lot of them are sending their work paychecks to there, and that's just where they keep their money. So I guess his Cash App got closed, so he didn't get paid. I'm like, well, yeah, they closed your account. You're not going to get paid. I was like, go make a new account. And he didn't know how to make a new account. Like he doesn't understand banks, what a credit union is, what a bank is, how to set up accounts on them, like anything like that. And I guess I'm glad I had that interaction because I think all too often, a lot of us people in the finance industry, or as we start to get along, after you get to a certain point, you forget that there's people that don't know, base level things.
Called the curse of knowledge.
Yeah. So it's good to be reminded of that so I can, circle back. The first thing I made in my course was like, after mindset's before everything, but after mindset, the first lesson is banking. It's like, all right, here's what a bank is, here's what a credit union is. Here's the big banks, here's the small banks, here's local credit unions, whatever. Here's the differences between them. Here's the different accounts you can have in them. Here's savings accounts, here's high yield savings. Just really get into all these things just in case, because I think there's a lot of people that just don't know, and they never would know. So that I think a lot of the young people maybe jump straight into figuring out how to make money, right? Because a lot of them jump in, drop shipping, become real estate agents, what have you, YouTuber, Twitch streamer, they're trying to do this stuff to make money, but they don't even have the basis of where money is supposed to be kept or how to how to safeguard it.
So I want to touch on that because I remember my sister a couple of years back, we had to help her get a bank account, and she was primarily using only Cash App. So it's funny that you mentioned that. And once you brought that out, I'm like, a lot of these people really don't know anything about money all that much. They're just, again, you're just using Cash App, right? Using all these different Chime. I heard through advertisements. I don't know anyone personally using Chime, but Cash App is definitely a big one. And a lot of people are just using Apple Cash. That's another big one that people are using. They don't have an actual banking institution. So let's talk about banks for a second. So I remember I read a book called Rich that I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi, and that's where I kind of started looking into different bank accounts and stuff like that. And so right now, I have 2 checkings account, and I'll tell you why, and then 1 savings account. So I have a checkings account with Charles Schwab. The reason I went with them is because I heard that they're a good financial institution. And honestly, at the time when I opened my account with them, I was like, oh, nobody got a Schwab account. What if one tool was all you need to start your business and make your first 6 or 7 figures? See, I was never entrepreneurial growing up. And after starting my first business, I spent the first 2.5 years completely lost. Nothing worked for me until I found Kajabi. See, if you offer coaching, courses, if you have a private community, if you want to start a podcast, a newsletter, a blog, if you have a membership community, Kajabi has you covered. They have everything you need to start, scale, and sustain your business all in one. So I want to offer you a free strategy session where we'll talk about your business, your goals, and how Kajabi can help you. All you have to do is use the link in the description, and as an extra bonus, I'll get you a free 30-day trial to test out Kajabi. Normally, they only offer 2 weeks, so hurry up, click the link in the description. With that being said, let's get right back into this episode. Time when I opened my account with them, I was like, yo, oh, nobody got a Schwab account. I'm pulling up to the function. Who you bank with, John? I bank with Charles Schwab. It just
right.
It just got a little oomph to it, make you feel like I'm high class, even though I'm a struggling entrepreneur and I'm working my way out of it. But it makes me feel like I'm financially savvy just because I bank with Schwab. And then I ended up opening up a second checking account. The only reason I did was because Schwab didn't have any in-person locations that I can go to for banking, because they're primarily an investing institution, if I'm not mistaken. And so I was like, at the time, I was working at a restaurant. I'm getting a lot of money, cash, and tips. I was like, I need some place where I can go to deposit. And I think they have like ATMs that you could use, but I wasn't trying to pay a fee. At the time, I was also getting into points and miles. And I was like, all right, around that time, I had applied for the Chase Sapphire Preferred. I just got accepted a couple months prior to the Chase Freedom Unlimited, to the Freedom Flex. And so at that point in time, my credit score was like about 700 something. I had a Bank of America card that I used to be building my credit. I had an app called Self, which is like a credit builder app for anyone that doesn't know. Pretty much you pay monthly installment, they report to your credit bureaus, and then at the end, pretty much get all your money back minus the interest. So a great way for someone that doesn't have no credit to start building credit, for anyone that doesn't know what that is. So I was using those two. I had the Bank of America card, the Chase Freedom Flex card, and the Self app, all to try and build my credit portfolio. Got denied from the Chase Sapphire Preferred. I'm like, all right, Chase likes people to have multiple relationships with them. What's one thing I could do to hopefully get my next application accepted when I apply for a new card? So I opened up a Chase account because I needed to deposit my cash tips, and then also build a relationship with them. It ended up working out because I ended up applying for the Chase Freedom Unlimited, got accepted to that, and then a few months later got reapplied to the Chase Sapphire Preferred and got accepted. So the plan eventually worked out. So and at that time, that was a college account, so I wasn't paying any monthly maintenance fees for Chase. At that point in time. And then for my savings account, I like Ally Bank. Ally is super dope. For anyone that's listening, Ally is a high yield savings account. It is an online bank, and I like it because it's harder to access your money. I feel like the easier you have access to your money, the easier it is to spend. So personally, and I want to hear your thoughts on this too, because I know I've been yapping for a little bit. Personally, I think you should have a checkings and savings account in separate institutions because it's harder to access your savings. And anytime you want to, now you have to wait 3 to 5 business days, and it makes you really reassess, like, hey, should I be spending this or not? And I'm not gonna lie, again, once I got into entrepreneurship and there was times where I needed money, it was a little annoying, but it helped me maneuver smarter with my money. So that's kind of what the little setup that I kind of created and I've been rocking with since. But I'm curious to hear kind of your thoughts on everything. What you kind of recommend.
No, pretty much
even
exactly what you were saying.
Even if it's not recommend for me, like recommend in general. Sorry.
Yeah, no, for sure. So that's kind of the same stuff that I preach. I'm like the last part that you mentioned about having a separate, like an actual completely different bank for your savings and your checking. I love that. I tell everyone to do that. And I think it helps even more when your checking account is probably in a regular bank. So using your savings for a high yield account just makes it easy. So yeah, I preach that to everyone. One of the guys that's in the Mammoth Money Academy now, we just created a new, so Ally was my first high yield savings account.
Okay.
So I feel that I like Ally. I didn't have any problems with them. I recently changed in the last month, And it's because during one of our live calls, I was like, all right, cool. High yield savings. You don't got one. Let's go find one. Right. So I just pulled up the internet, went to Google, typed in high yield savings and, found one of those like top 5, top 10 lists. And as we were going through it, I was like, oh, this is this one, but this one wants fees. This one has a minimum balance. So we probably don't want to deal with that. Here's this. I actually ended up finding Everbank. Everbank is another, online one. But while I know Ally's interest rate fluctuates, a decent amount, I think it's probably sitting around like, I don't know, maybe 3.4, 3.6 right now, something like that. Everbank is sitting at 4.3. And I was like, dang, that's a lot. Like, that's like really high compared to a lot of the other ones at this moment. And I was just looking through and I was like, okay, I don't see any problems with this bank. And the guy I was working with, he was like, okay, yeah. So he went ahead and made an account. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make an account too. Because honestly, I think we hold a lot of allegiance to banks for no real reason. Like I don't,
No,
it's not like Ally's giving me anything extra to sit with them. It's not like, USAA is giving me like extra money. So I was like, I'm gonna switch over to the higher one. What's up?
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially, I grew up Dominican, but like in the Latino community, I don't know what it is about Bank of America. Like, they swear by it. Like, you would have thought they had like a coalition or something. Like, try to talk about Bank of America and tell them anything other than Bank of America, and it's like a whole argument, bro. It's so I just wanted to reemphasize. Sorry for interrupting that point. We a lot of people tend to hold a lot of allegiance to these banks who literally couldn't tell us from a number, right? So it's like, make sure you're getting yours when you're looking for where to bank, and not just saying, hey, my family banked XYZ, so I'm gonna bank with XYZ.
Yep. Nope. That's it exactly. So, and really, I probably just would have sat with Ally until I went and looked it up with him. And I was like, you know what? It's not that hard to open another bank account. It's not like it's going to be this big tedious task that I needed to worry about. So I just went ahead and, opened a new one, and took like a day to transfer my money from there to there. So that's what I'm rocking with now. But yeah, the other point, like you said, since you were doing a server thing, you're running off of tips, you want somewhere where you can actually, put your money into. I haven't had to deal too much with a job like that, or having, hard dollar bills on me. So I haven't really had that problem. So the digital banks are fine. But I do have I might have too many accounts. So just business accounts and, personal accounts. Like I ended up, I have a Chase Reserve card, where I like Chase's perks and stuff compared to American Express's. But I got accounts with Chase. I got accounts with USAA, with Navy Federal. My Ally one is still there because I think I left some money there. And then now I got this Everbank one. So, across the map, I probably have maybe 3 or 4, maybe 3 checking. Nope. I have 5 checking accounts. Yeah. And like 4 savings accounts. It might be unnecessary. I don't know. But, with the business stuff, I like to try to, keep everything separate, and I'm not commingling.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think a lot of people get kind of confused when they hear people have multiple accounts, especially because, like, for me, like, at one point, I had like 10 credit cards, and people are like, oh my goodness, John, why do you have so many? And it's like,
right.
Really? That's a lot. I watch a lot of these YouTubers that talk about credit cards, and they'll have like double, or not more. Because like
I've seen some people with a stack, and they keep a rubber band around it of credit cards.
Yeah, because some people have like multiple businesses, and so like for each business, they'll open up the same set of business cards and just keep freaking gaming the system. And like when I talk to people about money, it's like, man, all of this stuff is a game. Like, get good at the game and figure out what makes sense for you. But once you understand the rules, then you can make an informed decision. Like for me, like I gamed the credit card system because I knew like, hey, this points and miles stuff, I was going to be traveling a lot for business, right? I can pay for all these on cards, right? One, then it's a write off, right? Two, it's I still get points, and points can be used for business or for personal, right? There's no differentiator between business points and personal points. And then three, then you start getting status, and it's like, well, if I'm going to travel anyway, I might as well get treated better when I do it. So it's like, oh, and so for me, I kind of just learned that game and just figured that out and reverse engineered what do I want to do and how can I get there. And so, again, to your point, so a lot of people, whatever we have may seem like a lot, but it's like, it makes sense for us. And this whole like finance journey, I feel like people need to remember that, hey, like there's all this information out there. How can I take what I need and apply it to what I want to do so that it's personalized and comes to fit to what I'm doing? Because everyone has different goals and different things in life. Usually you're new, you're a parent. I'm not. Like everyone has different factors and stuff like that that we all have to put into play when we're deciding what to do with our money. And then you mentioned another thing that I wanted to touch on that it's slipping my mind right now. So I'm just going to move forward and hopefully it comes back to me. But I think one question that I definitely am curious to ask you is like, because I know you're talking to parents and teens and stuff like that. Overall, like what is the message that you're trying to share with them overall and about money? Like what is like, if you could sum it down to like one core thing that you're trying to push? Because again, we're talking like specifics in terms of different banks, different investments, all that stuff.
Sure.
But like in terms of like, if you had to summarize like one core thing that you're trying to push out, what kind of is that? What would you say?
I guess if it's like one core thing is that, I mean, financial literacy is a term. I'll see if I can say it without using that word. Basically, knowing how money works is important. And the younger you are when you figure that out, the easier your life will be. I think that's probably like the overall theme. And, just through the, like I said, my focus is on the teens, but I have to do it through the parents. One, because
teens aren't going to pay you.
For sure. And then in addition to that, it doesn't really matter too much how much I tell the kid if the parent is living a completely different way, at home, right? Because the kid can watch my stuff 30 minutes, an hour or something. Then they're going to go spend, the rest of everything with their parent. And if they're seeing their parent do all this ridiculous stuff with money, they're not going to listen to me. They're going to do what they see.
No, 1000%.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's fun while I'm doing this, honestly, because I feel like it's evolving kind of as I'm going. Like I had the idea to like build a course and make a community a couple months ago, and it's changed maybe 4 times, right? Because I started off like, boom, this is going to be 4 teens. All I want is the teenagers, in the community. And then from there, it was like, okay, well, now I want to focus on the parents, and I want the, parents. I want to just have parents in there so we can vent about how our kids don't listen to us and how they spend all their money, right? Parents just like doing that. So I was like, well, that could be fun. And then my next thought was like, okay, well, I'm making 2 courses inside of it now. So one is that parents can go through, and the other one's going to be if the kid just wanted to go through it themselves, they can. So that people have the option on if the parent wanted to be the one, teaching a person, but if they don't have time, just send your kid through this and, I'll teach them. And then now on that, like you were saying about, instead of, switching my topics or something, just trying to go deeper or trying to figure out how to provide more value. That's when I started coming up with like the generational thing. I was like, since I'm already working on maybe teaching possibly 2 generations and talking about family wealth, let me learn more so I can start teaching about, wills, and start teaching about trust, and start teaching about what needs to be done to actually, pass on assets, money, knowledge, human capital, whatever, in the most efficient way possible, So that's kind of where I'm at now. and it's helping me grow because I don't know enough about trust to teach it. So that's why, like, when I went to InvestFest this past weekend, all the booths I was focusing on were people who were talking about, like long-term investing, trust. Like I spoke to maybe 3 different, trust attorneys and experts on these, because I've decided that that's where I need to put my focus, because I know a lot of people don't know a lot about it, myself included. So if I become very proficient at it, then I can, dumb it down and teach others. So that's where I'm at now. I'm literally like 25% of the way through 2 different trust books to, get my knowledge up on it.
That's dope, man. I love the intensity, right? You got something and you figure out what it is and you double down on it entirely. Because it could be very easy to get shiny object syndrome, right? So, I mean, you need a little bit of some of it just to like kind of test out what it is that you want. But once you find what it is, like double down. And it's funny, I had a podcast earlier before we hopped on to record. And a guy, we actually talked about, not in depth at all, but the topic of wills and trust and estates came up into conversation, and how most people that, in our community and that grow up not having much don't know any of that stuff. That's a whole different language. And it's not that people don't understand it. It's like people are completely unaware of some of these vehicles that are out there and accessible to us. You don't know what you don't know. And if you're not in the right rooms or actively seeking it out, you'll never ever find the information on it. So kudos to you for going out there and being that pioneer, going out and seeking the information so that you can bring it back to your community. And speaking about your community, I mean, it's a perfect time to ask you, man, where can we connect with you? Where can we find you at if we want to learn more about all the amazing stuff that you have going on and that you're cooking up?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So, like I said, my name is Darius Lester. I think you can probably see it down here. So the website is dariuslester.com. Super easy. Just type in dariuslester.com. It'll take you to like pretty much a main page where it has a video where I explain a little more in depth who I am and why the community is good. And then there's a button where you can apply to join. I prefer to get people on a call prior to joining, just so we can kind of fill it out and make sure that this will serve you. I don't want to waste anybody's time, just jumping in there and then them being upset that they're not getting whatever they needed. But yeah, it's dariuslester.com. Basically, the community is built on school. If you're searching on school, you just search up Mammoth Money Academy, and it should pop up. That's a little picture of a mammoth with a graduation cap on it. And yeah, also, if you go to dariuslester.com, at the bottom, there's a link to all of my socials. So it's either Darius Lester or Mammoth Money Mindset or Mammoth Money Academy. You'll find me through any of those things.
Yeah, my pleasure. Now it's time for our famous 5 question. We'll keep it quick.
Sure.
First question is, what is the most impactful lesson you've learned in life?
In life? Maybe that opportunity isn't like segmented. It's not some people get more opportunities than other people's. We have to have the knowledge to understand opportunity when it's in front of us. Everybody has opportunity. It's just, do you have the knowledge to recognize it or not?
100%. What is the most admirable trait a person can have?
Admirable trait. I think the willingness to do for others. I think probably one of the best things I like to try to do, and I just love when I see other people do, is when someone's willing to do something for someone else that has nothing to do with themselves. They're just doing it to help better humanity.
If you had to change someone's life but only had one book to recommend, which would it be?
Ooh. Jeez. I don't know. Man, I don't know. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, probably, right? And maybe that's cliche. Maybe everybody says it, but everybody says it because it worked. So
yeah. If you kind of alluded to this maybe a little bit earlier, but I'll ask it anyways. What is the legacy that you're working on leaving behind?
Ooh. So big planning, right? Because a lot of people I follow talk about scaling and making big things and legacy. So in addition to this Mammoth Money Academy, community thing, I really want to make a like a festival or a convention where parents take their children to learn about generational wealth. So, you're encouraged to bring your kid and both of you sit there and learn about, investing from advisors and attorneys and estate planning, and just a convention just for that, for people who want to, build lasting wealth throughout multiple generations. So that probably a legacy that I'd like to try to leave behind. And
for anyone that wants to embark on their walk to wealth, what is the first step you recommend they take?
Sign up to Mammoth Money Academy.
There we go. You heard it here, folks. Darius, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And for anyone that's tuning in, thank you so much for your time. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Walk to Wealth podcast. There's an old African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So make sure to hit that subscribe or follow button so we can continue on our journey to wealth together. And again, I'm your host, John Mendez, and I'll see you on the next episode.